Recording in progress.
Good evening, sir.
Amazing, yes. एक मिनट में पीछे सीन देख रहा हूँ। नहीं हटना नहीं, मैं सीन देख रहा हूँ सेंटर में करते हैं, देखते हैं क्या है। एक सेकंड, ये पीछे वाली विंडो क्यों बोल रहा है? वो तो कर दूंगी इसको भी। वो ठीक है ऐसे तो, अदरवाइज ठीक है ना सेंटर में। Okay.
Light is okay, sir. Light is.
People or YouTube only?
YouTube has been published. Sir, Zoom is alone.
Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming here today on a weekday. We will be starting the awards very soon. I request everyone to take their seats, please. request you all to take your seats. We'll be starting in another 2 minutes. Annual PoleStar Awards. I am Charlie Lobo, and it is an absolute privilege to be your host this evening. Good journalism deserves great recognition, and after 2 years, it is wonderful to reunite and see one another and celebrate and honor good journalism in person. The pandemic distanced us physically, but brought us closer than ever in some ways, and journalism has been key to this. Every time it felt like the world plunged into darkness, quality journalism across business, technology, social impact, moments of courage and kindness, these held up a torch. They kept us informed. They kept us sane. They gave us hope. To start the celebration on an auspicious note, I would like to call on stage S.V. Ramanan, CEO, India and South Asia, Intellect Design Arena, Padmavi Sharad Kumar, Chief Talent Officer, Intellect Design Arena, Sudha Gopalakrishnan, Global Head Quality, Intellect Design Arena, Krishna Rajaraman, Chief Technology Officer, Intellect Design Arena, Dr. Ambu Ratnavel, Chief Design Officer, Intellect Design Arena, for the lamp lighting ceremony. The lamp lighting ceremony is a symbol of truth, knowledge, and understanding. Thank you, leaders. The PoleStar Foundation was instituted in 1998. Throughout its journey, much of which has been about catalyzing change in society. It has been a benchmark in shining a light on excellence, in celebrating those heroes who identified new patterns in business, technology, and the tapestry of humanity which moves us forward. Let's now take a walk down memory lane with this AV. You can see we have so much to celebrate this evening. We have outstanding journalism and a beautiful musical recital by the Chennai Children's Choir. And to kickstart the celebrations, I'd like to call on stage Mr. Deval Dutt, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Intellect Design Arena.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome and thank you, Shalini, for kickstarting the event. I just wanted to say that, as Shalini mentioned, it's absolutely wonderful to have a room full of people. And, I haven't touched a rostrum or a mic for a very, very long time. And I'm just happy being here and being with all of you. So once again, good evening. And ladies and gentlemen, let me start off the evening by saying that how honored we are to have our chief guest this evening, Padma Bhushan Shekhar Gupta, founder, editor-in-chief of the print. Mr. Arun Jain, he's absolutely known to us, PoleStar Foundation and Chairman and Managing Director, Intellect Design Arena. He's joining us virtually. It's absolutely wonderful to have Dr. Ashok Jhunjhunwala here in person. Dr. Ashok Jhunjhunwala, Institute Professor of IIT Madras. Other respected members of the PoleStar Advisory Committee, our esteemed jury members, friends from the media, distinguished guests from the industry, government, and the consulates, and academia. In their book, The Elements of Journalism, Bill Kovach and Tom Rosenstiel say that journalism's first obligation is to the truth. Its first loyalty is to its citizens. Its essence is a discipline of verification. It must serve as an independent monitor of power. It is these values that the PoleStar Awards upholds. These are the values that we recognize, award, and celebrate this evening. As someone said, good journalism is not dying, it is getting better and bigger. It's just bad journalism makes a lot more noise than it used to, and sometimes in the literal sense also. Um, an eclectic group of thinkers and visionaries provided the guiding light. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the PoleStar Advisory Committee. Please put your hands together for Mr. Arun Jain, Mr. V. Balaraman, Dr. Ashok Jhunjhunwala, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, and Professor S. Sadagopan. We would like to thank the members of the PoleStar jury. Their deliberations, insights, sense of judgment, and a deep understanding of the worldview across subjects helps us in selecting winners year after year for the last 23 years. Please put your hands together for Ms. Aruna Rao, Mr. Abhay Gupte, Sriram Shivaram, Vijay Lakshmi Rao, David Apaswamy, Professor Dr. Korwar, and Mr. Mukesh Sharma. We are proud to have created a platform to record and recognize journalists who are torchbearers of a profession that is hugely respected but under scrutiny in these current times. We are here, and taking a phrase from Shekhar's famous television show, we are here to walk the talk. We are here to be factual and liberal. We are here to raise a toast to that breed of journalism that the PoleStar Award celebrates. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence today, and have a wonderful evening. And as always, be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, the board, for setting the context for this evening and putting in perspective the vision of the PoleStar Foundation. The PoleStar Awards draws kindred spirits across all spheres of business, industry, social impact, the media, and in the case of our chief guest this evening, a convergence of all these. Ladies and gentlemen, we have among us today Mr. Shekhar Gupta, founder and editor-in-chief of The Print. He is a prolific columnist with his highly influential weekly column, National Interest, which is translated in 5 languages. A selection of these columns were collected in the best-selling book, Anticipating India. Shekhar, a recipient of the Padma Bhushan, hosts Off the Cuff, an offering from The Print, his daily YouTube show Cut the Clutter, which recently crossed 1,000 episodes, explains and analyzes the big news developments of the day from India and abroad. Until recently, he also hosted Walk the Talk on NDTV 24/7 every week. A collection of these news-making interviews has been published as a book, Walk the Talk, Decoding Politicians. In his 4-decade career, Shekhar has reported on key Indian and international events, including the Delhi massacre in Assam, Operation Blue Star, the student uprising in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the first Gulf War from Baghdad, and the many twists and turns in the troubled 1983-1993 decade in Sri Lanka's Tamil North. Before this, Shekhar served as the editor-in-chief of the Indian Express for 19 years and simultaneously held the position of the company's chief executive for 13 years. I now request Mr. Shekhar Gupta to please come on stage and deliver the chief guest address.
Well, thank you very much. If you find that my voice is a little bit here and there, my throat sounds funny, please don't worry. I'm not carrying any virus, at least not today. And it's just that I occasionally have this seasonal allergy, so it's one of those things. So thank you for not complaining about missing my booming voice. Second, congratulations to the award winners, first of all, and gratitude to the jury, because I know jury duty is very tough, because there are juries and there are juries. There are juries that actually look at the entries and spend time on it. But there are also juries with, what are you saying? It's like copying in an exam. So they say, oh, you decide this, you decide this, you decide this, you decide this. I say so because I've been at the both end of the jury process. I've been a jury member several times, and I've also run awards at the Express, particularly where we had to deal with juries. Now, one set of juries dealt with our journalism awards. That is the Ramnath Goenka Journalism Award. We launched it, I think, in 2005 or something, and it's been going on. And it's always had a very eminent jury. And I found that there were very busy people, but they would find time to do it. And once they took a call, everybody generally accepted it. And we did establish a reputation that these were really clean awards. They can be arguments. Everybody thinks that I am great. Everybody's mother thinks that their kid is the greatest, right? But the fact is that you have to choose the best. So it's a tough thing. The second experience I have, of course, I've sat on a few juries myself, and I can't say that I've been the best jury in the sense of doing my homework. Well, I'm not very good at doing my homework. As you can see, I'm speaking without any homework, and there is no teleprompter uh, because now Mr. Modi has such invisible teleprompters that you have to really enlarge it to figure out that he's actually got one. He does use one often. So there's nothing here. But I've also looked at another kind of jury process. And that's where I figured what a challenge it is to run an impartial award. And that was the jury process for the Screen Film Awards. Screen was a publication owned by the Express. And as you just heard from the hostess, for 13 years, I simultaneously also functioned as the paper's, as the company's CEO while being the group editor-in-chief. And one of the most difficult part of my job was handling the screen awards. Because while I might say that fantastic, at least for one evening, I get to rub shoulders with all the stars of all kinds, who are all interesting people who otherwise I would never meet. I mostly meet politicians, corporates, good corporates, politicians, good and bad, and then crooks of many kinds. Uh, Occasionally, I might meet sports people because I like writing about sport, but I almost never rub shoulders with film stars or the film community. So it's a good thing. At least I get to see it's fun. I get to see how a film award is done. But I can also tell you that used to be the most humiliating evening of the year for me. And I'll explain to you why. The big challenge then was to somehow protect the integrity of the awards and the reputation of the jury. So we always appointed a very highly reputed jury, which was Vaida Rahman one year. It was if I remember correctly, it was Amol Palekar. So jury chairpersons were like that. But on the award day, 3 days before that, phone calls would come. Somebody would say, "Mere ko nahi mila, I will not come." Somebody will say, "I didn't get it. Not only will I not come, nobody from my family will come." That, frankly, if it's a family of one of the big stars in Bollywood, it's like half of Bollywood, right? I won't come, my wife won't come, my son won't come, my daughter-in-law won't come, right? Hello, you've given this award to my film, right? My film has got the best film award, but you haven't given the director the award of the best director, and you haven't given the star the award of the best star. So either you give us all awards, or none of us will come. Now, that was a multi-starrer film with 3 big male leads and 3 big female leads. All of you can guess which one was it. And everybody boycotted. Everybody boycotted. And we said, we will not interfere with the jury process. Our main challenge is to keep the jury process intact. And if we can't, then we'll shut down the awards. And ultimately, it got so difficult. It got so difficult in the end that finally I told Vivek Goenka, the owner of the Express, that look, this is the Express. We have to maintain the integrity of everything we do. We can't give these awards if we are not able to control the jury process. Every year I have to do it. I have to deal with all these calls and things, and some or the other boycotts, and then sponsors say so many big stars didn't turn up, so who will watch my TV show? So I said, we can't handle it. This is not our thing. Let's sell it. So my last act before I left the Express was to sell the Screen Awards and the Screen magazine to Star. We said, you are the sponsors. You always complain saying that you haven't given an award to so and so. You haven't. So why don't you just buy it? So we got rid of it. So running an award process is a very tough thing. Now, having said that, I was given a bunch of topics to choose from. I think if I spoke on any of those, it'll be a lot of the same stuff that you've heard many times before. Because everybody, when they are asked to come and speak at these events, everybody sermonizes you. And everybody says how bad the state of journalism is and what can be done. And also the underlying message is that I am so good, right? I am the best. And people who work for me are the best. They are the best. I'm not the best. People who work for me are the best. But I thought, at the spur of the moment, I will talk about briefly the the three main elements for which these awards are given. You have IT awards, you have business awards, and you have good news awards. Right now, let me start with business first. When I started journalism, uh, I became a full-time journalist at the age of 19. Uh, I was sort of part-time journalist and paying my expenses at the university and the hostel. Uh, at the age of 18, when I was a journalism student, I was sports stringer for the Times of India. And since it was the emergency, the only thing you could cover was sports. It was very good for me. I got to learn how to cover sports, and I'm a sports enthusiast. So from that point on, and then at the age of still short of 20, I joined the Indian Express in Delhi as a full-time, in Chandigarh, as a full-time reporter. Now, those days, newspapers had no concept of covering business. They had no concept of covering business. They had very little concept of covering the economy. So all they had was one page. Dr. Jhunjhunwala, many of you would remember of my vintage or thereabouts, that the business and economy page in newspapers was called commerce page. And commerce page at commodity prices, jeera goes up, dhania comes down, that is, cumin goes up, coriander comes down, tamarind goes up, etc., etc. I just thought of tamarind on the spur of the moment again because it's Chennai, right? Tamarind goes into a lot of food here. I love it. And then there would be a single column about 1/3 of the page on stock prices because there were so few stocks those days. And that's all. There was nothing else. Then there were other principles on newsrooms. For example, the commerce editor, as the person in charge was called, would say that any story to do with any private sector is a fix, right? So we should not publish anything on the private sector. Anything on the public sector should be published as it is, because that is kosher. Anything on the private sector is not kosher. That generally was the principle that was followed. And then from the private sector also, a lot of the coverage was actually about press conferences. And all of those press conferences, we saw the guy who had gone from the commerce desk to cover the press conference coming with a big bag of goodies and everybody and meet them. अरे आज ग्वालियर शूटिंग का प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस था, so what did you get? I got 2 suit lengths. Fantastic, right? So that is how India's business journalism was. There was no business journalism. It is around early 80s that business journalism in India was invented and then developed. And I can name you the inventor. The inventor of business journalism in India was T.N. Nayanan. Because it's when T.N. Nayanan joined India Today, I think it was in 82 or 81. I joined India Today in 83. He was already there. It was T.N. Nayanan who redefined the way business and economy were covered in India. In fact, the first big breakthrough story which made people interested in business, which had so much oomph or so much sex appeal, was the Swaraj Paul effort to take over escorts and DCM. That became a big story, and the India Today then covered that as a cover story, and the whole country said, "Wow, there is some other area of life also for journalism to cover." That was then followed by, I think, India Today had another cover story on the growth kings. Unfortunately, most of those growth kings have not ended up well. The only growth king who's ended up well is the Ambanis. All the others, Chabrias, Malyas, we know what happened with them, or Orcas, so let's not go there. But the fact is, there was then a boom in business journalism. And that further picked up in 1991 with economic reform. As economic reform began, suddenly the shyness that we had about the private sector being immoral, about profit being bad, that declined. Unfortunately, it has not fully ended. Just as in, because we need some scapegoats in our public debate. So in the past, it used to, and we need these scapegoats who hide all our inadequacies. So our political class has still not delivered most of the promises that they have made over the generations to us, but they always find someone to blame. So in the past, it used to be Birla Tata. That guy is criticizing me. He's a hired gun for Birla Tatas. Now it's become Ambani Adanis. Right? But again, while Ambani Adani, you cover them for what is right and what is wrong, the fact is you just can't say that the names are abuses or that it's immoral to be in business, make profits, have high valuations. If that wasn't the case, Polaris would not have become what Polaris is, because business is about entrepreneurship. So now business journalism is mainstream, which is a wonderful thing. At the print, because our own training and learning is in politics and governance and political economy. We had stayed there because you should stay closer to your core strengths. But now we are also expanding into business and economy. So far we were using Bloomberg, but now we think slowly we should do stuff on our own, because it is now mainstream, as we realize. Because what is economics today? It's all politics. What is business today? It's all politics. Adani can get his coal mine in Australia, and the loans for it, and the support from Indian government and the Australian government across the tenure of two completely opposed governments in India, that is UPA and NDA, across two terms of UPA and two terms of NDA, and across the terms of many governments in Australia of the Labour and of the right, conservative right. Why? Because both countries, the governments of both countries have been afraid about China's expanding footprint in Australia. Australia is a huge country, but with a very small population. So at one point the Chinese came and they were buying up a dairy farm in Australia, which was bigger than the area of all of Belgium. Belgium is a country. And that's when the Australians panicked and they said, no, they said no to that acquisition. And then they said, we need some balancing. And that's where they turned to the Indian side. So that has happened. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think in principle, it's a wonderful thing if Indian businessmen acquire or build assets overseas. But the fact is that it happened because of politics, and politics cutting across the party line in two very raucous, noisy democracies. So politics, business, economy is all the same now. So what used to be business journalism now is mainstream journalism. So that is one part done. The second part is IT. Now, IT is what I know very little about. And if I know very little about IT, and I read a hell of a lot, I mostly read journalism. I don't read too many books, etc. I mostly read journalism. I read a lot of the stories that come out on IT. The fact is, I still don't quite understand what India's IT business is. Because And I speak completely as a commoner. For me, the IT business now, is it the gig economy? Just the other day, I learned the exact meaning of the gig economy, that it's not exactly IT. You come and do a gig. That means you come and deliver food and then go home and tend to your cows or buffaloes, right? That's gig economy. You do a gig. So people who are economy that employs people like that. So what is Indian IT? Why don't I see any Indian software anywhere? Why don't I see any Indian IT brands anywhere? IT brands are Infosys, Wipro, Tata, Polaris, etc., etc., etc. But where is some, at least a chota, small Indian, what do we say in Tamil, Kunjum? Kunjum is small. Kunjum, Microsoft, nothing. And now we are saying, somebody says, I'm doing financial technology, etc., etc., etc. I am doing some Bitcoin business. I mean, someone like me, I haven't read a story in our IT press that can make an idiot like me understand how does the Bitcoin work. In fact, to understand what Bitcoin mining is, and if you check around with people, a lot of people will think Bitcoin mining means that you have, these are some rare minerals, metals that you find someplace. That's why this wretched thing has so much value. I had to Google what is Bitcoin mining, and not that I understood it very well. Then somebody said to me that, Bitcoins are very energy inefficient. They are very destructive of the environment. So how can something that doesn't even exist materially destroy the environment? It's then that on a flight, a Bitcoin entrepreneur explained to me that that's because for each time they create the equivalent of cryptocurrency, they have to go through about 16 or 18 million uh, transactions on computers, and each one consumes energy. So this is 16 million times more energy consumed than, say, a UPI transaction. So these are things we don't understand. So IT is an area that needs a lot more work. IT, pharma, these are areas where I think journalism needs to grow and develop a great deal, and I'm glad that you're honoring these people. I've seen these names. I know most of these names. Most of these people have grown to become stars. So it's a good award, and that's why people who get IT awards in particular, please mentor other young journalists now to understand that area well, so that older people like us can understand. I can tell you, my working life spans the Morse machine. How many of you are familiar with the Morse machine? Who invented telegraph? When telegraph was invented, telegrams were sent on a Morse machine. That were tick, tock, tock, dash, dash, etc., etc., etc. In my life as a reporter, I have filed at least one story on a Morse machine from a place called Mokokchung in Kohima, of an ambush in which some 8 Indian Army soldiers were killed. It was an important story. It was done on a Morse machine where that thing comes down, the hammer comes down like this, and somebody then decodes it. And then we had teleprinters and Hindustan teleprinters machines which could not cut tape, which means if you typed it and the line was garbled, you had to type it all over again. By the end of it, your fingers were broken. And now see what we have come to. Now you can communicate from anywhere. Now I know that this has happened because of technology, and technology has changed our lives completely. In fact, I find that even for Cut the Clutter, when I talk about the past, people love it, because we are a very young country. So there is a whole post-Google generation in our country which believes history only began with Google. But history did not begin with Google. And they say, wow, I had no idea this also happened. Because I keep saying that everything that happens now started someplace earlier. And everything is a continuum. It goes on like this. For example, today, you have this blasphemy debate going on. So Mohammed Zubair has been arrested under section 295A of Indian Penal Code. Now, if you ask anybody, if I ask any of you, do you know India has a blasphemy law, or does India have a blasphemy law or not? You will say no. Pakistan has a blasphemy law. Saudi Arabia has a blasphemy law. Civilized countries do not have blasphemy laws. But the fact is, India has a blasphemy law. This law was drafted in 1925 in British times. Why was it drafted in 1925 in British times? Because the usual nonsense goes on. Some Muslims said something rude about Hindu gods, and some Hindu wrote something rude about Muslims, the Holy Prophet. That Hindu was assassinated, he was killed by a Muslim. That Muslim was put to trial. He was hailed as a big hero. His lawyers included Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Iqbal, the poet, attended his funeral. And at that point, the British said that look, these people take recourse to these extreme methods because there is nothing in the law where they can seek some uh, some some satisfaction. So let's have a law. This is a very complicated country, diverse country. These illiterate brown people. I'm not saying that. I'm just using rhetoric. So these illiterate brown people, they don't know how to respect each other. They take offense too easily. So let's pass a law. So tomorrow, if somebody feels aggrieved, they can go uh, and file a police case. So that's when this section 295A, there was a 295 already since 1860. In 1925, 295A was added, whereby if my religious feelings are hurt, then I can file a case. Now what happened? We did pass that law, and that law goes on. So yesterday, under that law, Muhammad Zubair was arrested. All right? And yet, today, despite that law, a man has been beheaded in Udaipur. Uh, Apparently because he had posted something on Facebook in support of Nupur Sharma. So he's been beheaded. And the two fellows who beheaded him have made a video of the beheading, like ISIS, and have also recorded a video of their own, displaying their butcher knives and saying, "We have done it, and we do this to anybody who insults our prophet." So, what has happened, the big unfortunate story that's happened today, and this terrible arrest of Zubair, nobody should be arrested for things like this. Yesterday, all this is rooted in what happened 100 years back. So these are things that we need to understand in our country, and that's where I find the technology is coming handy for me because I can now reach out to a lot more people and tell them this. Uh, but once again, we have to understand technology better, and I think too many IT journalists make the same mistake that people like us used to make when we covered defense and military affairs. We used to presume that everybody knows everything. Uh, so Arun Puri, who was our editor there in India today, used to say, "Don't write for the egghead. Don't write for the specialist. Write for me as in him. Write for an ordinary person so they can understand." So similarly, I think IT has to go in that direction because IT right now I find too much focus on individuals, on startup entrepreneurs, on lifestyle. I know many of them also pay money for stories on their lifestyle. Most of them hire very expensive PRs. Uh, in fact, I find the most expensive tech startups PR, the more likely is that tech startup to collapse after their IPO. Uh, it's an inversely proportional relationship. But let me leave it there. Let me not be more facetious than this. Finally, the good news story. So, how do you define a story as good news or bad news? The news is what it is. The news doesn't have to be what I like. I mean, today there is such there. uh, Your award is for good stories, right? But I'm just again getting into an argument on what is a good story. I know that one channel now has a good news channel. I think it's called Good News Today. Dainik Bhaskar, which is a Hindi newspaper, it is the largest selling newspaper in any language in the entire world. Dainik Bhaskar every Monday morning on the front page says the world's only no negative newspaper in Hindi. So on Monday, on page one, they have no negative news. It's like you have the perfect world. Then you turn the page, there you will find some washerman's wife has run away with some with some butcher, and the police are chasing them, and all those stories that come in from page 2 and 3 onwards. So this is, we are not laboring to find good news stories, but good news, bad news, news happens as it happens. And I can't say that I will not read or I'm not interested if India loses. I hope they don't. If India loses to England in this fifth test match, I'll feel rotten, but I can't change the news. It's a story. And somebody does a story on why India lost, why Indian cricket lost its direction. I mean, I have my own theory. I think Mr. Ganguly has single-handedly destroyed Indian cricket in his ego hassle with, in trying to destroy Virat Kohli, he's destroyed Indian cricket for now. But that's my view. So I might do a story, or somebody might do a story that could be an award-winning story. Will it be a good news story or a bad news story? So I don't know. I struggle with the definition of good news stories. At the same time, stories of achievement, stories when somebody has dealt with really terrible circumstances and come up trumps. Stories, I mean, look at this marvel of a vaccine being discovered for a new viral disease within months. That is the biggest good news stories, story maybe of our generation. So all those are good news stories, but I find it difficult to create a good news section any place, even a page or half a page, because after a while, what do I say? Today in the city, nobody was murdered, so it's a good news. It doesn't work like that. When I started working with the Indian Express in Chandigarh, I mean, like usually happens, every young reporter's first beat is crime. So my beat was crime, and I would feel rotten. And people say, "Kya shahar mein crime cover karega? How will you cover crime in this city?" Only the average murders per year in Chandigarh were 6. Right? 6 murders a year, what kind of a crime reporter would be? So when there was a murder, say, wow, aaj ek murder ho gaya. Right? So a story is a story is a story. So I'm a little bit conflicted on that. So I thought I'll mention that to you. That is not to say that the stories that your award winners have done are not good stories. They are all valid stories. It's just that I'm very conservative and I'm quite old. I might be the oldest person in the group. I think Professor Jhunjhunwala and I are about the same vintage. The fact is that once you start putting stories in the good news category, you hand over something to the establishment. And the establishment then says, and it doesn't matter who has the government at that point, all establishments are similar. Some are less worse than the others, some are more worse than the others. All establishments are bad. So they'll say, see, ye to good news story hai, baki to sab tumhara bad news hai. That means all the other news that breaks is bad news, only this is good news. So we have to be careful handing over those definitions to the bad guys. So I think on that note, I will conclude. If I had prepared myself for it, I would have spoken for less time. But now that I didn't, you had to suffer me for a bit longer. Thank you all and congratulations.
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you for those insights on jury integrity and for those lovely and interesting anecdotes on IT, business, and good news. Next, we have the founder address by Mr. Arun Jain. Mr. Jain, founder of PoleStar, will be joining us virtually today. And for those who know Arun, he's the founder of Polaris, chairman and managing director of Intellect Design Arena. Arun's path of entrepreneurship, deep domain expertise, vision, and planning began in 1993 when he founded Polaris Software Lab with just $250 and a dream. Intellect Design Arena Limited is his third venture. He conceptualized, created the FinTech 8012 the world's first design center dedicated to financial technology. Arun instituted Mission Samriddhi, a social impact enterprise dedicated to holistic human development in India. He has also nurtured Ullas Trust, which works towards igniting less privileged young minds into realizing their true potential. I now request Arun to deliver the founder address.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Shekhar, for bringing out the whole journalism story from 1976 to now. I didn't know that business journalism started as late as 90s. And now you can imagine IT journalism when we started this award sometime in 98, when we were sitting together with Dr. Junjunwala, with Mr. Balraman, Sadgopan. We thought that IT needs stories which defines the way IT industry will prosper. Rajiv Gandhi started the journey of IT sometime in CDAC in 86, 87, but the stories are not building it up, and it's just coming up in 98, 99. Few IT organizations start coming up, few government initiatives like STPI start coming up. And that is the time when we thought that we have to encourage IT journalism at that stage. Now it's 23 years. It looks, when we started it, even decade was looking difficult to sustain the award with the same integrity. As you mentioned, Shekhar mentioned about integrity of jury, integrity of founder versus the jury itself. And I think I must thank jury who sustained it from last 23 years. I must thank PoleStar Administrative Office to collect over 500 nominations across India, filtering those 500 nominations to bring it to the jury in a structured manner, and then jury spending their own time, almost a week or 10 days in reading those articles, and then coming together for one full day, spending time to select the final winner. So thank you, Abhay Gupte, Arna Rao, Ashok Korwar, David Appaswamy, Mukesh Sharma, Shriram for spending significant amount of time in working it out, the final winners of this award. Journalism to me I'm a very strong proponent of design thinking. Design thinking means how you design the thinking of the community, and journalism is also like shaping the thinking of a community at large. While design thinking can be there at a smaller level, while journalism is a very large scale intervention which shapes the thinking. When I was going through the history of journalism, I found that there was journalism started sometime in a small newspaper in 1556 in Venice, and then 1632 in France, and 1780 in India. So it's a long journey which is there. Earlier journalism was by the stories which get percolated. When I was visiting France last month, I found that some of the technologies which are there, which journalists could have inspired our development process, like the way Notre Dame in 1180 had a fine brick and fine glass technology at that time, or 12th century, the time technology in Germany, or printing technology of 1500, had shaped the development process and accelerated the development process of these cultures, which took almost 500 to 600 years to come to India. I think maybe, I don't know whether it's because that we are not supposed to travel 7 seas against the Hindu mythology, that we should not be going out 7 seas, travel outside. That was the reason that we didn't pick up those technology in time. If we would have picked up those technology early enough, maybe our development process between 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century could have been on different pedestal. To me, the role in our IT world is, as Shekhar Gupta is saying, that why we don't see Microsoft here from India? Why don't we see Google from India? And this is the question I always in mind, and that's why I moved away from Polaris and then focused on technology, product and license-based business after some time. Only thing which comes to my mind is I think we needs to be agenda setter in technologies, and for being agenda setter, we need a different kind of a culture of challenging, culture of questioning. I love the walk the talk, the way, Shekhar, you put the question across to the group. Is that questioning ability, understanding the patterns, which is positive patterns or anti-patterns, what is not going right, but in a very subtle manner. And that's the way it shapes the thinking of the people and shapes the thinking of the culture, where new technology, fundamental technology can evolve and take shape. I appreciate Dr. Ashok Jhunjhunwala, who set up a research park in IIT. You must see it, Shekhar, if you have not seen it. It's 1 million square feet of space where professors of IITs and hundreds of startups, young people are coming with challenging the basic thesis. 10 years from now, you will find something will emerge, significantly will emerge. Already many technologies have emerged from there. The purpose was that all these awards are to understand what happens behind such things in the industry. The 3 awards, as you questioned about good news, in Mission Samriddhi, we worked around with 200 different NGOs, where we believe sensitivity of NGO, agility of corporate, and reach of government, if they work together, we can make a difference to the world. And we come across many interesting small stories which are inspirational in nature, which can be replicatable. Like we are doing holistic and collective farming, where we are motivating the tribal community to come together and pool in land, so that they can have the good water storage in a collective formation, and then they can do a crop planning. So this is done in Shiratoki in Yavatmal district. Now this is a story. If this model succeeds, then our income for the farmers can grow to 8 times, not even 4 times, on the same place, which happened to be in water shadow area or rain shadow area of Yavatmal district, where the highest society used to be there. I think these are the elements which I believe the good news of inspirational stories. We need to get some good news around that. We still have stories which are covering 400 million people, which are in the urban population, but there is a opportunity to cover the stories from the rest of the 900 million people who needs attention. They also doing something, good stories, good work in those areas, which should be covered as stories. So my desire is that in next 10 years, the way 23 years back, we talked about IT to be the focal point for India. Now today, IT runs 7% of the GDP of the country. Rural India should cover up substantial amount of, should add $1 trillion to the economy in coming years, if we can create imagination, inspiration for driving the economy. We all know that in 21st century, the journalism has changed substantially, especially in the last 3-4 years. We have competition for clicks, rush to publish, social media, verticalization of the stories versus deep research with connected dots. What I love in the print, Shekharji, is about making the entire story connected. The 25 minutes, 30 minutes when you cover the story, when I listen to your stories, you spend enough time in collecting the right data and presenting it in a very lucid way. So it's about communicating a story in a manner in which any common person can understand the complexity of politics, complexity of economics, complexity of the local variants which are there happening globally. And we need similar kind of storytelling in IT industry. We need similar type of storytelling in many business industry. And that's where we believe at Intellect, we get inspired from journalism and storyboarding, which get inspired. So in 8012, which is our design center, which we set it up in 2013, 9 years back, the idea is to inspire the people there with the design thinking. And there we look at pattern and anti-pattern, connect the dots, understand the blind spots by applying the 3 laws of design thinking. Last 2% is 200%, less is more, and prioritize on 10 gram, 100 gram, 1000 gram. So with that, we are able to drive somewhat about storytelling. We need to learn a lot from this journalist. I must congratulate the winners of this year award and winners of last 23 or 22 ceremonies. Each one of them have demonstrated the courage, integrity, and communication to share their story in the right earnest. Thank you very much for all the participants who have come there. Unfortunately, I land up having the COVID on Sunday, and I have to miss this physical session with all of you. I must thank all the journalist community of Chennai who are visiting there, all the people who have coming year on year for this award. Thanks a lot for honoring, and thanks Shekhar for traveling from Chennai, traveling from Delhi to Chennai for this award ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arvind, for the founder's address. It is thought-provoking to think how design thinking can foster the art of storytelling and give us means to find interesting stories. This 23rd PoleStar Awards is truly special as we're gathered here to witness unveiling a piece of history. And for this, I request Mr. Abhay Gupte, a long-serving PoleStar jury member, to address the gathering now. Abhay is the Managing Director and CEO of Manipal Technologies Limited and is responsible for its businesses and subsidiaries in India, Germany, Kenya, and Nigeria. He has over 37 years of work experience with large global and Indian organizations. He is on the board of directors at Intellect Design Arena. He is also the longest serving PoleStar jury member. The stage is all yours, Abhay.
Thank you, Arun, for the interesting keynote address. Thank you, Mr. Shekhar Gupta, for your speech on journalism. Good evening. Lovely to see all of you here. Probably 2 years we didn't meet in person, so it's always wonderful to see in person. We are here to, of course, cheer the brilliance in journalism. There are lots who have joined us on virtual medium as well. I have been associated with PoleStar Awards for a long time and watched us contribute in a small way in recognizing and inspiring the journalist and the talented journalists in the country. As Arun said, PoleStar Award was instituted in 1998 by Arun and has been a long commitment to celebrating journalism, the outstanding contribution they made. The printed word to me have always captured the finer nuances of a country. Its progress, its people, Mr. Gupta mentioned about it, its fabric, its conscience. The independent professional journalism has shaped the fabric of our society since its inception. Historically, journalism has helped people make sense of their surroundings, of the call they need to take, understand the truth, understand the operating these surrounding areas and opinions that they develop. The journalism you spoke about, how it has progressed, clearly demonstrated that. The award started with a strong focus on technology journalism in its infancy in 90s. Over the last 2 decades, India has seen a seismic change in the progress of our nation in that area. Journalists have not only been witness to this change, but have also chronicled it very well. Hence, the business awards were added subsequently as a category as India saw a surge in business activity post liberalization. It was also an era where technology started playing a crucial role in businesses and its success. It records India's prolific journey in technology space as well. When we look at the articles, when we look at what the journalists covered over last 23 years, just to put in perspective, it covers the 9th to 12th 5-year plans in our country, if we look at that way. Now, 23 years is a very long journey. Probably the startup word itself was not there when it started in 1998 to now more than 100 unicorns in the country. 23 years back also saw beginning of Google, right? Google search engine started in 1998 and now we have Google everywhere, Google everything, right? So we have seen this journalistic journey, we have seen these articles, we have seen this progress across all of these years. All through the ICE nation's most outstanding journalists, they have been contributing excellent articles, also to me, tirelessly acting as the catalyst in disseminating quality information. In fact, year before last, we saw some very nice articles about this area of bringing out or being the catalyst in journalism. Every year we've seen significant increase in the number of articles that we get, number of nominations that have been, and we started with the print. Now the main renowned media publications, a lot of journalists participate from them. Now, interestingly, the online publications last few years have also started participating. To me, I truly believe good journalism, good television, and good online content will make a better place for all of us, better world for all. While the initial years, noticeably the IT awards had only articles on technology, hardcore technology, on servers, the networks, the chips. We saw all of that. But in the recent years, the technology articles and business articles have mixed up, and you see a lot of them appearing in business magazines now, the hardcore technology. Great progress from that we have. Several online publications, several online journalists have started nominating, which again is an interesting part. As we sit together and enjoy this celebration, there are hundreds of people who have joined us on virtual network. Some of them are past winners, some of them are current winners. They're here. Plus, I'm sure there are a lot of future winners who are here with us. Now, this award has been covering, if you look at it, almost 1/3 of countries' post-independence era. And that's an interesting part of a history we should not forget. The 60 Years Chronicle, reportage of the last 2 decades covering technology, business, and now the good news articles, they've been written pieces, have not been celebrated, well, not just been celebrated by PoleStar Award, but as something that are clearly a contribution to the history of our journalism. It gives me immense pleasure to bring the forth to the world the history that we have long cherished and recorded in the form of journalistic masterpiece. Let us now unveil the PoleStar Award Compendium. May I request, sir, to come on the stage, please? Yeah.
Can we please have the PoleStar AV Compendium?
Over the past 2 decades, journalism across the globe has changed dramatically. India has also changed. One of the world's economic superpowers. All this observed and recorded through journalistic masterpieces. The media is playing the role of the fourth pillar for the world's largest democracy. The fourth pillar with a mission to uphold the truth, to inspire millions while portraying nothing but the unwavering truth. The PoleStar Awards is honored to celebrate extraordinary journalists and their extraordinary stories. Presenting the 2-volume PoleStar Compendium, winning journalistic pieces from the last 23 years. Meticulously stitched together to tell the tale of modern India.
I would now like to call on stage Mr. Shekhar Gupta, Mr. David Appasamy, Ms. Vijayalakshmi Rao to unveil the PoleStar Compendium. Dr. Ashok Junjunwala, please come on to the stage. I request Abhay to hand over the first copy of the PoleStar Compendium to Mr. Shekhar Gupta. I now request David to present Shekhar with a memento on behalf of the PoleStar Foundation. Thank you, everyone. I request David to stay back. The challenge of passing through great work, the responsibility of choosing from among them is immense. David will now give his insights on the jury process.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here on behalf of the jury to give you an idea of what kind of an experience it is to be a jury member and the kind of criteria we use to evaluate the articles that are sent in as nominations. Now, usually, um, the person who briefs you on what the jury does is the last speaker before the awards themselves. So everybody's like, okay, get it over with. But I think based on what Mr. Gupta has said about the different kinds of jury, this time you probably are a little curious about how we go about it. To begin with, I must tell you that the PoleStar Foundation's vision, established more than 23 years ago, of awarding excellence in journalism, ensured an absolutely robust process of identifying the best articles using objective criteria for evaluation and comparison. Add to that the tenure of jury members, which ranges from 5, and in the case of Abe, to 15 years. And you have a set of jury who are passionate about journalism, who are committed, willing to spend that time, and that have that focus to be able to read every article and evaluate it in such a way that using a combination of experience, the objective criteria, and respect for one another's jury members, we're able to work together to arrive at identifying and awarding the very best. The criteria we follow includes relevance. How relevant is that topic given the current scenario? Storytelling. How well is it presented? Now, I was enthralled by Mr. Gupta's storytelling this evening. That's really what he did, right? He recounted many anecdotes from his own experience, and that was very powerful storytelling. And storytelling is one of the most powerful aspects of journalism. Then we look at how well researched it is. How deeply have they gone into it to analyze what was behind every story? So research is a very important aspect. The fourth is, how investigative is it? Is it just a record of what happened? Or are they probing to find out the reasons behind what happened? Are they analyzing it? And finally, multiple perspectives. How many perspectives are there? You can have a story, for example, where you may have only one person interviewed about that particular topic. But on the other hand, you might have a story where 6 different people from 6 different cohorts are questioned about it to give you a composite view. So multiple perspectives. And all of this gives readers both width and depth of understanding of the topic that is being presented. I'm happy to inform you that more often than not, there is unanimity amongst jury members. Mind you, jury members are sent articles, hundreds of them, that are masked. We don't know who the journalist is. We don't know what the publication is. And we read them individually. We're not in the same room. We're at home. It's sent to us, and we spend hours reading those articles and evaluating them on the criteria just presented. So we haven't yet met each other. And yet when we do, and we look at the ratings, there is unanimity, usually, of at least the top 3, if not the best, in terms of how we've rated them across these criteria. And when there is no unanimity, if there are 2 or 3 that are really good, then we sit down and we spend half a day or more discussing various aspects of these stories that are in the top 3 and discussing them very objectively as jury members to arrive at the winner. It is fortunate that jury members have been together for a while. We respect each other. We understand where each of us is coming from. We all have very diverse backgrounds, so we bring our own experience to that evaluation. It is this rigor, integrity, and commitment of jury members over the years that has resulted in the PoleStar Awards becoming the benchmark that journalists now look to in terms of being the best. This year we received a record 513 nominations, the largest we have received so far. And I think it's a resounding affirmation of the value of the PoleStar Awards and to the way it has been adding value over the years, as Abe has recounted just now. Over 450 journalists from across the country sent in their nominations. 196 for business, 148 for technology, and 169 for good news. A category we began to encourage positive news that balances the flood of disaster and bad news and raises the hopes of readers. The most nominations were received from well-known publications like the Economic Times, the Times of India, Business Standard, Financial Express, the Mint, the Ken, Inc. 42, and so on. We've also seen an increasing number of nominations from the new media and from such publications as new media as the Third Pole, BBC Work Life, Millennium Post, the MIT Technology Review, Foreign Policy, which was originally a magazine but is available online, and so on. Over the years, we've seen as jury some marked trends, and Abhay touched upon it. Today, technology is very much a business enabler. So sometimes we have stories that are entered either under business or on technology, which can be more about business despite being entered in technology, or despite being entered in business, it's more about technology. So we have to take a call on what award it receives, because the lines are blurred. Some businesses, for example, are synonymous with technology that enables them, such as the many fintech apps today, or the new startups that we are seeing. In the process, technology and analytics have become mainstream and a large part of many articles. And we as jury have to keep up with all of this. We are learning all the time and evolving in our understanding of these topics. But at the same time, we are happy to see that investigative journalism and the storytelling aspects are timeless and have been constant and a part of the winning articles every year. Finally, jury members will tell you that although it is very challenging, it involves a lot of time, focus, and commitment. Reading the nominations is always deeply rewarding and mind-broadening. I can tell you that during the time that we read the articles, we read them up to a point where our eyes are watering. It can be that tiring for all of us, and I think we've all been through it. And so it was this year as well, followed by those vibrant discussions at the jury meeting that identified the winners for this year. With that, let's take a look at the winners.
Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, I admire this distinguished jury, and I'm curious to see how these insights color this next part of our evening. We have seen and heard from some incredible people today, but the evening belongs to someone else, to 4 people, the winners of the PoleStar Awards. The best in business and technology journalism, the best good news story, and the winner of the special award from the jury. First up, the best in business journalism and the nominee.
I'm really honored and humbled to receive the award. There's a lot of good journalism that happened in the last year. So to be considered to be among the best of all this journalism is a very gratifying moment for me. as health journalist, during the COVID pandemic, I was following the various drug development and vaccine development programs in India. And Covaxin was arguably the face of the Indian COVID vaccine development program. It was promoted as India's first fully indigenously developed COVID vaccine. So many of us were following it very closely. And over a period of time, over the period of 1 year, there were many controversial developments related to Covaxin. My article was at the intersection of so many different fields, right? There's the science of vaccine development, there is good manufacturing practices, the science of vaccine manufacture, there is clinical trials, there is the drug regulatory system, and there is public accountability of government bodies. So there were all these different themes which I was sort of bringing together in one story. And the specialists, these are all very specialized fields, right? A person who has expertise in, let's say, early stage vaccine development may not necessarily understand some of the challenges of vaccine manufacture. Surprising but true. So I had to sort of find all the different experts in various fields and to understand these fields deeply enough, and then to sort of synthesize all their points of view into one story. I would only interview people who are known to be experts in a field, and I would actually review their work in the field before I speak to them. If I'm speaking to a scientist, I would actually read up on their research and understand where they're coming from before I go to them. So as somebody who focuses on long-form journalism, who has the time, to me that is personally not an issue, because I do a lot of background research before I approach my sources. So I really appreciate it, and also we need a recognition of journalists in more niche and specialized areas, because increasingly journalism is becoming specialized. You cannot be a generalist commenting on everything. So, and as an award for business journalism, PoleStar is doing that. So I'm really appreciative.
Gupta, Dr. Ashok Junjunwala, and Ms. Vijayalakshmi Rao to come on stage to felicitate Ms. Priyanka Pula. Congratulations, Priyanka. I request Ms. Vijayalakshmi Rao, Dr. Ashok, and Shekhar, if you can stay back. There's the Technology Award as well up next. And can we have the nominees, please? And the winner is
I'm really thankful to PoleStar Foundation for recognizing my hard work. It's also a very humbling experience. It adds responsibility to my work. I'm really inspired to do more hard work so that probably I can win many more PoleStar Foundation awards in the future. I'm often hooked to mobile phones and I use these messenger services a lot. So it was a personal interest that I should know what's going around, and above all there is some political angles to it, and I am primarily a political writer, so I thought I should dig deep into this and find out what exactly is happening and what our readers should know, how we should be careful and what more can be done. So that was what was motivating me to do the story. The biggest challenge, if I have to pinpoint, was lack of information. WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, name any of the messenger services, they were not very forthright about what they are doing inside their servers. Then I needed experts who can explain everything in layman's terms, because I was writing for a layman. I myself was a layman, so revealing a lot of technical jargons would not help me. So I was trying to break the story into smaller parts, which was pretty difficult, easier said than done. Then I needed legal experts who were also not very aware. They knew the laws, but they were not very aware of the technicalities. So I had to merge both and understand and myself and then reveal it to my readers. As a journalist, you have to verify every fact, whether it is in the current era of digital journalism or social media journalism, or whether in the good old world of print journalism. You have to always verify facts. Without that, you can't be a journalist. So people can spread fake information, people can spread misinformation, but as a journalist, I have to always continue finding the real fact. PoleStar Foundation for last more than 2 decades actually, they have been recognizing the hard work, non-glamorous journalism, which is very important, technical journalism or business journalism, and stories which actually add value to journalism. It's very rare. There are not too many awards like this where you feel really satisfied. It's very important in giving direction to what exactly journalism should be practiced, and I'm really thankful for this, not just for awarding me, but recognizing many more such hardworking, sincere, honest journalists.
Request Kaushik to come on stage. I now request Shekhar, Dr. Ashok and Ms. Vijay Lakshmi Rao to felicitate Mr. Kaushik Deka. Congratulations, Kaushik. Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you, Dr. Ashok. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi Rao. We now have a very special performance this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome the Chennai Children's Choir from the Nalanda Way Foundation. This is a beautiful group of 27 young children who are enthusiastic enthusiastic and aspiring singers who have performed widely alongside many celebrated musicians in India and abroad. They performed for the IFA India concert in 2020 along with A.R. Rahman, Shankar Mahadevan, Shah Rukh Khan, and many others to raise funds for COVID-19. Pre-COVID, they also performed at the Serenade Choral Festival at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
Our first song is Bright Tomorrow. It is written by Pandya Raj. It is original composition of Chennai Children's Choir. This song says that failure is the stepping stone to success. So keep trying and you will achieve your goals. The next song we are going to sing is Brahmamukate. It is written by Annamacharya and is in the language Telugu. This song says about equality and inclusion. Brahmamukate means every god is one, and like that, everyone is like equal.
The next song was Rikegaletu. It is written by Subramania Bharati. Its language is Tamil. This song is a musical expression of nature and rain.
The next song is Malgudi Days was composed by L. Vaidyanathan for a TV series Malgudi Days based on the novel written by R.K. Narayanan.
Thank you, Chennai Children's Choir, for that heartwarming performance. And now, not just because of the music, but the next set of awards brings an instant smile to my face. The next two categories are the Best Good News Feature and the Jury Special Mention. Let's have a look at the nominees for the Best Good News Feature.
I was absolutely thrilled when I first heard that I had won the award. It was both an honor and a privilege to have been selected from over 500 nominations for the PoleStar Award. And this being a story that was close to my heart and one that had resonated with a lot of readers as well. So it felt extra special for that to be recognized by the award jury as well. It was a typical journalist curiosity that led me to this article. So this was around the time that the engineering exam results had come in, and I noticed that quite a few students from Telangana social welfare residential schools who were from very underprivileged backgrounds had performed very impressively. And very coincidentally, I was also working on an infographic at the same time about famous Everest summits. And I noticed that the youngest girl who had summited, Malavat Purna, who was also an Adivasi, as well as 16-year-old Anand Kumar, who was a Dalit, happened to belong to the same Telangana social welfare residential schools. So that triggered my curiosity and led me to probe about how and why these students were doing so well, which in turn led me to the IPS officer who was behind this transformation, that is Dr. Praveen Kumar. So that's kind of how I was able to put the story together, which eventually became a 4-page cover story for ET magazine. I had to I feel, an extra layer of checks and validations, speak to multiple sources, independently verify things. I spoke to alumni, both in India and abroad, to get an independent picture of how the school's transformation had happened. And because there were multiple compelling threads, I also had to make it into one cohesive narrative that would resonate with the readers, especially Economic Times readers. So I concentrated on the institutional transformation that had happened. And I also wanted to highlight Dr. Praveen Kumar's role, because what had happened throughout the years was a lot of the students had done well and been in the limelight, but he had intentionally, I think, not been at the forefront of taking credit for this. So I wanted to make sure that his role in all of this would be brought forward as well. The PoleStar Awards, which recognize the best in tech and business journalism and in feature writing, I feel over the years has gained a crucial place in the media space. And the fact that it's in its 23rd year and every year I think more and more nominations are received is itself reflective of how important it is. And I do congratulate the people behind the awards for this achievement. It's also a great validation and motivation for the winners to keep striving and to continue doing the work that they do.
I request Mr. Shekhar Gupta, Mr. Abhay Gupte and Mr. David Appaswamy to come on stage to felicitate Miss Indulekha Arvind. Congratulations, Indulekha. Thank you. Thank you, Shekhar, Abhay and David. I request you all to stay back for the next award as well. The final category of this illustrious evening is the Jury Special Mention Award. As David earlier mentioned in the Jury Insights, we had an overwhelming number of submissions this year for the 23rd PoleStar Awards. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the winner for the PoleStar Jury Special Mention.
It's a great honor. Obviously, it's huge validation for me. I've been in journalism for over 20 years, and this is actually my first award, like a first national award. It's a great recognition, and especially this particular story I was so invested in personally, and it was a story that I was really proud of. Startup culture is such a sort of concentrated hotbed of so many various things, it's business, it's lives, it's aspirations, and there are so many aspects of it, but mostly what we find in the media are the stories of like fundings or somebody being sold, making a lot of money, high value startups, unicorns. We don't often, look into the lives behind the startups. We don't look at it from a lens of, human stories. Yeah, this was not an easy story to write, mainly because startup founders tend to be cagey about, talking about challenges that they face, and because the whole narrative of startups is one of celebration, so nobody really wants to talk about the negative aspects of it, because there's a lot of stigma attached to it. And as I mentioned in the story, it actually affects their livelihood, right? I mean, if you come out as a startup founder who has depression, or who says that I have felt underconfident, it might affect your next funding round, with your VCs. So people are wary about talking about it. So I had initially thought that I may not be able to get too many people on the record, but surprisingly, many of them opened up to me. Often business journalism is seen as it's about celebrating a lot of things, it's about celebrating stories, but the kind of stories that are being told today, which are more investigative in nature, which are deeper in nature, I mean, they require a lot of encouragement and support from people, not just from readers, but also, from foundations like the PoleStar Foundation. And I think this will only, sort of encourage more journalists to look at these stories, to look behind the scenes a little bit, to dig a little deeper than the press release that lands on your plate, and, really find the things that are going well and the things that are not going so well in society and in business.
I request Ms. Shrabanti Bagchi to come on stage to collect her award. Congratulations, Shrabanti. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you, Mr. Apasamy. With that, we wrap up the 4 awards this evening, but we still have some exciting news. The PoleStar Awards, a tradition that has distinguished itself with its commitment to a cause, with a kind of consistency year on year for over 2 decades to celebrate excellence in journalism, making it an institution, not just an initiative. It upholds the work of individuals who show excellence and make valuable contributions to the field of journalism. And it is my absolute honor to announce that the nominations for the 24th Annual PoleStar Awards are now open. The nominations can be submitted for the categories Business, Technology and Good News feature. The nomination form is now open on the PoleStar Foundation website. You can submit your nominations by logging on to www.polestarfoundation.org. And with that, reluctantly, we come to an end of this evening. An incredible, fascinating year for journalism. Another incredible, fascinating edition for PoleStar Awards. And on behalf of the PoleStar Foundation, our sincere thanks to each one who made this event a success it is today and a force for good it has become. The guidance and vision of the PoleStar Foundation management, the advisory committee, the integrity of the jury panel, and the tireless efforts of the organizing team. I thank Mr. Shekhar Gupta, who's taken time off his busy schedule and came here to the PoleStar Awards in Chennai to celebrate with us. I'm grateful to our guests, not just for their presence, but for the quality of their participation. It was inspiring and humbling to listen to each one of you. I would like to thank the nominees, the press, the media industry, and each one of you in the audience who took time out on a weekday to be present for this occasion. On behalf of the entire PoleStar team, I look forward to meeting you all next year for the 24th edition of the PoleStar Awards. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please do join us for cocktails and dinner. Have a lovely evening and be safe.